Simply Financial with Christopher Calandra, Certified Financial Planner, is an innovative, comprehensive, informative, and cutting-edge podcast that discusses financial topics ranging from personal finance, economics, politics, and personal growth. Simply Financial will cover intriguing and thought-provoking questions so that the listener can simply increase their financial IQ.
Welcome to the Simply Financial podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Calandra. This is episode number 19 of season number 3. And going to do something different than what I have done previously on the show. This will be the first episode in what will be a 5-part series titled Battle of the Sexes. So today I have with me for the first time my wife, Joelle, to talk about money within a relationship, within a marriage. We've been married for, I should get this right, it'll be 23 years in August. So she and I are going to do 3 episodes together, 2 on money and marriage, and then 1 about educating kids and dealing with kids with money. We have 2 teenagers in the house, and so that'll be the 3 episodes that Joelle and I do together. The other 2 episodes in the 5-part series are going to be me and Lindy Brock. She has been with Elliott Wealth Management Services for over 5 years now. And she and I are going to talk about some of the same things, but get her perspective, and that will be the 5-part series. We're really excited about this. We were going to record this episode on Valentine's Day 2019, but Joelle was sick, and so we finally gotten around to doing it, so we're really excited. So Joelle, thanks for sitting down with me today.
All right, you're welcome.
So I know it was a long time ago. And by the way, listeners, we haven't really prepped much on this. Our lives are crazy with the kids and work and all of the things that we are blessed with day in and day out. So we really haven't prepped much for this. So we're kind of doing this live. We really haven't practiced this at all. But in thinking back to the beginning, some 23 years ago, how do you feel, Joelle, about making financial disclosures before marriage? Do you remember what we had talked about before marriage? What was disclosed, what wasn't? How much did you know about my finances, for example, before we got married during, say, the engagement period?
Well, I know we were both very young. I lived at home. You were newly out, newly working, trying to make your way in this industry. You had purchased the condo that we were going to live in. So I knew you were somewhat settled and financially stable. However, I don't think I knew exact details about what was exactly in your bank account, and I'm not sure that you knew exactly the details of what was on my bank account. That being said, it was a long time ago, but I don't really remember how much debt you had, I had, how much you had in terms of wealth. So I don't really remember that being a huge discussion until actually after we got married. Is that fair?
I think so. I do know that you had some student debt, a small amount, and I teased you mercilessly for, what was it, $4,000, $4,500, something like that?
Yeah.
And we paid that off, I think, right after we had gotten married.
Correct.
So I do know about that, and I think I knew that you had money and that you were saving because you were living at home, and that you did have that small piece of debt. But did we really talk much about, before we were married, financial goals or saving, investing, or anything like that?
Absolutely not. That really was not anything. I think we both knew, because we were kind of in the same industry, that was a goal for us to save money and have a nice retirement and, have a nice life. But we never really talked financial goals until, actually, I remember pretty vividly, we bought the house in Cheshire in 1998, and I kind of had like a 3 to 5 year plan to maybe move on and move out. And you came home one day, and it was about 3 years in, and said, "I'm ready." And I'm like, "I don't think we're going to be ready." And you sat down and we went through things left and right, and dollar for dollar, and you said we could do this. And that was a huge leap of faith.
And what we were talking about is moving from so I owned a condo that we lived there for 2 years or so after marriage. And then we rented that condo. We moved to our starter home, if you will, in Cheshire, Connecticut. And then the plan was to leapfrog into the home where we would raise our children and really plant roots and stay in for a long time. And so 3 years into your 3 to 5 year plan, I came to you and said, all right, we're ready to do this. But you were not convinced, so we had to sit down, go through the income, go through the assets, go through the plan, so that we felt comfortable that we were ready and it was smart to move on to a bigger home with a bigger mortgage and the place we could really spend a long time in.
Agreed. I mean, I think we were very comfortable in the condo, obviously, and moving to our first home was a jump, but it was okay. But also with the child, we had Marissa, and I wasn't working anymore, or I was working part-time, so things were different. And that was I think the first time that I felt we had a serious conversation about where we were going, and what we were trying to accomplish.
So that was 2 years into our marriage?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we did, everybody that's listening, what we did is we solicited questions from a couple of sources. Mainly the team here at Elliott Wealth Management submitted questions. They know us because Joelle is part of the team here at Elliott Wealth Management. And so it's a small business, and in lots of small businesses, there's not a lot of secrets. Everybody gets to know one another. We're a close-knit group. And so one of the questions that we had, I'm going to go through these. Maybe we could do a little bit rapid fire. But one of the questions was, how much cash do you carry around? So how much cash do you typically carry around?
Probably $40.
Okay. I'm about the same. If I go into my pocket now, I have 20, 30. I have exactly $40. Wow. So we don't carry a lot of cash around. I usually have a little bit of a stash of cash that could be somewhere between $200 and $800. That's kind of my mad money, if you will. And then usually at the house, we have a stash of cash that's somewhere between $50 and a few $100s, so that if the kids need something or whatever, that we could grab. But we typically don't carry around a lot of cash.
No, definitely not.
And so what we do is we use credit cards heavily.
Yes.
So you have a credit card that you largely use for household expenses.
Yes.
And then I have the business card that I will use as much as possible within the legitimate realm of business. And then we pay those credit cards off diligently every month. I don't know.
Yes.
When was the last time, if ever, that we
I don't think we ever not paid it off. I don't think ever.
Yeah, I agree. But we do use credit cards heavily, and
we don't use debit cards.
We do not use debit cards. That's right.
Just credit.
Just credit. And we are now big-time Marriott point getters. So both of the cards are with Marriott, and we're trying to amass Marriott points when I travel for business. When we travel for family, we try to stay at Marriott. So we are accumulating quite a bit of Marriott points, and we like to use the credit card. And you do the books for Elliott Wealth Management. Can you just talk briefly about the advantages of using a credit card in terms of bookkeeping as opposed to cash?
Bookkeeping, it makes it very simple because I tie the QuickBooks right into the bank account, and I could roll it up very easily within minutes. And usually, Chris and I both are creatures of habit, so he will go to the same restaurants, the same gas stations, I go to the same grocery stores, things like that. So everything just kind of rolls up, and it makes it much, much cleaner, quicker, and easier to use, and I think it's better accounting-wise for our accountants. If you use cash, then you need to have these paper receipts that you need to then log in and journal entry, and it just causes just a little bit more work.
So it's neater and cleaner, more efficient, and the record keeping is much simpler.
Yeah, and you're less likely to miss something or make a mistake.
Okay, and so on the personal credit card, we also, as one of the tracking mechanisms that we do in our house, is that you keep track of spending by largely breaking down the credit cards by category to see how much we're spending on, say, gas versus groceries versus entertainment and things like that, right?
Correct.
All right, good. And so another question that we got, which I think is poking fun at you a little bit, so maybe you can indulge me, is do you reconcile statements to the penny or suffer from close enough syndrome?
I definitely reconcile to the penny. And if I cannot find that penny, I'm in a bad mood most of the day until I find that penny.
So it's great having you handling the books for us, both on the business side as well as the personal side, and then pulling it all together. And you are meticulous about getting things down to the penny. One of the things that we joke about, though, is she will reconcile everything to the penny, but she doesn't necessarily digest what was in the numbers. She doesn't look at the numbers for meaning. She is really just tracking the numbers, doing the arithmetic, making sure the coding is correct and everything ties together accurately, where I will look more at it in terms of the meaning. What is this telling us? What's the story? Is it a good story? Is it bad? Do we have more money or less money? Increased revenue, less revenue? So sometimes I'll ask her questions about what she just worked on, and she will not have the answers because she doesn't really look at it in the same way because she's focused on the reconcile. So that's one of those things we sometimes butt heads on.
Yes, I will have reconciled the books, have put in the end number, done everything, dotted my I's, crossed my T's, walk out of the office, and he'll ask me how much money was left in the account, and I will have absolutely no idea, even though I just put it in the system.
But you can say with a high level of confidence, it's right,
Yes.
it was done correctly,
Yes.
and there's no mistakes.
No mistakes, but I don't know how much money we have.
How much research do you do before making a major purchase?
Too much that it makes me not want to buy anything.
Yeah.
I get in my head, I doubt myself, I do too much research, I read reviews, I think I want something, then I read another review and then I don't want it, and then I just say no, and that's why we keep buying the same kinds of things.
So you're not an impulse buyer, especially when the price tag goes up. I don't know if there's ever an instance where you impulsively bought something that had any significant dollar value to it impulsively.
No, the kind of joke around the house with some of our friends and some of the coworkers now, and especially with the stock picking contest, I think the biggest impulse I've done is this Stitch Fix.
Okay, so what she's referencing, everyone, is internal in the office here, we have a contest where we each pick one stock for a 6-month period, and the grand prize is $1 gift certificate at a local dollar store, and it's more for playfulness, bragging rights. There's some teachable moments through the process, but it's mostly just for some good competitive fun. And so Joelle is a member of Stitch Fix. This is not an endorsement of Stitch Fix per se, but it is one of these increasingly popular personal stylist programs where Joelle gets delivered to her regularly, typically once a month, Stitch Fix that's clothes, and she works with the stylist so they learn what she likes and dislikes, and it really is a fabulous, fabulous service. And
It works for me.
it works for you. And so the next question is, how are we at preparing and adhering to a budget?
And that's a funny question, Chris, because we per se don't have a budget.
That's right.
You have never said to me, you have $100 to spend this week and that's it, and you can't come back for any more. Make it work. I think that what we do works for us. Our credit card is about the same every month. We kind of do about the same things every month. I think if there was a huge uptick and it kept going, then we'd have to reconsider. But we've never had a budget, and I think that's kind of interesting, being that we're both in the same industry. We grew up kind of probably with a budget, our parents. We just don't have a budget, and I think it's okay. It works for us.
So what we've talked about, and what I talk to clients more about, is our focus has always been, on goal setting. And if we focus on the macro things in the budget, if you will, such as how much are we going to put into retirement accounts, how much are we going to put into the kids' college funds, how much are we going to pay down in debt. If we focused on those macro things and we were achieving those goals, then we wouldn't sweat the small stuff in terms of what our entertainment budget is, what our food budget is, or anything like that. And that has served us well. And so you're right, we've never been in a situation where friends invite us out on a Friday night and we have to say, wow, guys, we would love to go with you, but we already exhausted our entertainment budget. We don't want to live like that, and we've been blessed that we have not had to live like that. Not that there haven't been ups and downs along the way, but that's really what we've focused on. And I am a believer that if I'm achieving my financial goals and I'm on my way to winning financially with money, if I want to go out and blow $150 with you and I going out to dinner at a nice restaurant with a bottle of wine like we did Friday night, then so be it. Which, by the way, Friday night, everyone, I thought that I read the price correctly on the wine list. And when we got it, the wine was way more expensive than I thought, which was kind of funny, but it was a little bit of a shock when we got the bill.
And the wine wasn't even that good.
And the wine was not that good. So are you a spender or a saver?
Saver.
And how would you describe me?
Saver.
I think we're both savers. I think especially over time as we become more affluent, and even when we were younger, though, we pick our spots because we've done some great travel and we've always had nice cars and we've always, I think, dressed well, but we don't spend an obscene amount of money on clothes, far from it. But we've always picked our spots, but I find now as we become older and a little more affluent that I think we do pick more and more spots, but we're not big savers. This $40 I have in my pocket, I think a week ago was $50. I don't.
You mean you're not big spenders?
We're not big spenders. What did I say?
Not big savers.
Oh yes, we are big savers. We're definitely big savers, everyone. What are your feelings on one person handling the finances in a household? And so the background for this question is it's still today, I find a lot of couples, even with more women in the workforce and less traditional family structures, and women certainly have, I think, more of a voice than they did in previous generations, I still find it all too common that you'll have a couple where stereotypically it's the wife, it could be flip-flopped, but in most instances it's where the husband will know the income, the assets, they handle the bills, they know where the investments are, and the wife knows very, very little. That's not how we structure things. So how do you feel about that as a woman, as a wife, and as a mother? How do you feel about that?
I feel that really women should be involved. I'm not saying you have to do the daily bills or, take care of the day-to-day finances. However, women should know where the money is, approximately how much money they have, know about life insurance, know about the finances that go on within the house, approximately what it costs to run the house. Because God forbid anything should happen to you, I feel that I am in pretty good understanding of what we have, where we have it, and what my life story could be after you. And I do feel like there's a lot of women that I know in my circle of friends that really don't have any idea, and if anything ever happened, are really going to be in a mess. And you're already going to be in a mess because you've lost your spouse and you have things to go on. So if you can clean that part up of your life and understand it, then that, I think, will help you in your future.
Yeah, I think that's very well said, and you're right. That doesn't mean that both parties need to do everything together, because life is hectic, especially with kids, and you do need to divide and conquer. There's things in the household that you're primarily responsible for.
Like where the broom is and you don't know where that is?
Yeah, I have no idea about anything going on in my own house. But you need to have some checks and balances and have that awareness. So the way that we do things in our household, correct me if I'm wrong, is I pay the bills. I make the vast majority of the investment decisions, how much should go into retirement accounts versus college funds versus bank accounts. And day to day, that's my domain. And we have invested in real estate over time, and that's largely things that I'm responsible for and will make most of the primary decisions related to that. But then what we do is, we talked about reconciling earlier, is that Joelle sees the books because she sees the credit card statements, she sees the bank accounts, and she puts everything into the QuickBooks system so that she can see on a daily basis, oh, this much went to the 401k account, this much went into the college funds, we paid down this investment property mortgage by this much. She can see if money is spent in this business for capital improvements or we buy new equipment, so she could see all of that. Now, we're always talking and communicating, so she's going to have an awareness on most things, but when she is doing the books and she's reconciling the accounts, that's where she could actually see the numbers in play. So that's one way she keeps an eye on what's going on, and sometimes she'll come to me with, well, why did we do this, or what about that, and we'll have conversations about it. So that's a good way that she keeps tabs on what's going on without us sitting down going through every single decision day in and day out. That's just not practical in our household. And then another way I've talked on the show a lot is we have a net worth statement. So I keep track on a quarterly basis of all of our assets, all of our liabilities, and I could go back quarter after quarter after quarter, and we can see how things have evolved over these many years. And each quarter when I do this, I get much more excited than she does, like way more excited, right?
Yes.
I will go through that, and then we'll sit down for 5 or 10 minutes, and we'll go through that. She's less interested than I am in the minutia of what the net worth statement is saying, but she will look at the major numbers. We'll have some conversations. I will let her know what I think we should try and accomplish over the next quarter or maybe over the next year, and she may have some input or some advice or questions, and we'll go through that. And that's the extent of it. But if there was a crisis, if there was an emergency, if something happened to me, she would be able to get that net worth statement and see where all the assets are and where all the liabilities are. And between her insight into the books combined with the net worth statement, she would be way ahead of where many of her friends are in terms of the financial situation in the household. Is that a good summary?
Yes.
All right. Why do you think it is that still today so many women, do you have a thought? I know some people that are very close to you, including family members, which we will not name, they literally have no idea how much the household even brings in an income or where their money is. They're not dumb people. They're well educated. They're in the workforce, and they're involved partners with their spouse and terrific moms. Why do you think that is? I find it very odd.
I just think that people like you, life is busy, you divide and conquer, and you're taking care of that, so I don't need to know that, and I'll do this, and just divide and conquer. And maybe they think someday they will get to it and sit down and talk about it, just never get there.
All right, that's good. Going back to large purchases. So when we're going to make a large purchase, say it's furniture or a car or something like that, how do we go through making the large purchases? What's, I don't know, think of something.
The car that we recently got last year.
Okay.
Probably the most.
Yeah, we're talking about yours or mine?
You just did yours without me, so we did not discuss that at all.
Okay.
That was not even up for discussion.
All right, fair enough. But
you said I'm going to get a new car, and you went and got a new car.
Okay, but just so listeners don't get mad at me, did I do what you would have expected I would have done?
Yeah, actually, you got a newer version of the same car that you like and love, and I do too, and you put less money down, and somehow you pay less money a month. So, yes, I have no idea how that happened. But yes.
But it is true that we're pretty lackadaisical when it comes to stuff like that. I will make more big-ticket decisions money-wise without checking in with you thoroughly than probably most households.
Agree.
I bought vehicles with very little interaction between you and I. I bought investment properties. I've acquired practices here. I made some big decisions, and we probably had very little interaction compared to most households. I think it does worked for us, though. And I know you were kind of making a joke, but in buying the car, when we bought your car, it was completely different.
Yes.
How did that play out?
That we kind of had a budget for in terms of what we were willing to spend.
Who determined the budget?
You.
Okay. I was going to say you.
No.
Okay.
Definitely
All right.
not. And we kind of knew we were going to buy a used car. We had some parameters in terms of what we wanted and what I wanted.
Right.
And I think we narrowed it down to a few different types of cars. And I think we went slightly a little bit above what we were thinking price-wise.
Nominally, yeah.
But I think, we got everything. And it didn't take that long because I think we kind of had a time frame of what we needed to do it by. And so I think it went well.
I think so, too. And then also, this is going back a little bit, we bought our first car for Marissa when she got her driver's license.
That took a lot longer.
That took a lot longer.
That we went from not spending a lot of money to spending too much money to, does it have an aux cord? Does it have, the bells and whistles? Does it have the safety measures?
We were all over the map. And this relates to the earlier question, right, about research. I mean, I spent an enormous amount of time, way too much time, researching, and we were all over the map.
Was she going to get my car? Was I going to get a new car? Was she going to get an SUV? Was she going to... It was a lot.
Yes. And then having a teenager involved in the process a little bit, certainly...
Well, and then smashing it 6 weeks later didn't help either.
No, that did not help at all. So, Marissa, when you listen to this, we're just making fun of you a little bit. So I think that's a good place to leave it, Joelle. We will be back on another episode very soon. It'll be part 2 in the 5-part series, Battle of the Sexes. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Please, listeners, if you haven't subscribed to this podcast already, please do so. You can go to any number of podcast platforms to do that, including iTunes. Go to the website, www.elliottwealth.com. You could subscribe there. Plus, if you're not a client of Elliott Wealth Management Services, you can sign up for a complimentary consultation at the website. We would really love it if you would do that. Thank you much. We'll be back with you very soon.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of SagePoint Financial Incorporated and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. No strategy can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Please note, the information being provided is strictly as a courtesy. When you link to any of the websites provided here, you are leaving this website. We make no representation as to the completeness or accuracy of the information provided at these websites, nor is the company liable for any direct or indirect technical or system issues or any consequences arising out of your access to your use of third-party technologies, websites, information, and programs made available through this website. When you access one of these websites, you are leaving our website and assume total responsibility and risk for your use of the websites you are linking to. Securities and advisory services are offered through SagePoint Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Insurance services offered through Elliott Wealth Management, LLC, not affiliated with SagePoint Financial.
Simply Financial is part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can find Exvadio podcasts at exvadio.com/podcast, the Apple Podcasts app, iTunes Store, iHeartRadio app, Spotify, Stitcher, and wherever you find podcasts. So join us and stay informed and entertained.